the dice. This is it. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Talking baseball.
The grand salami.
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Welcome to Fed Up, the #1 podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. We are down to the final weekend of baseball for the 2024 Federal League season. We started the year with 35 teams. Only 18 remain. 4 of them will end their season on a winning streak and lift a championship trophy in the process. We've got a great episode lined up for you for the last weekend. We've invited some familiar faces to join us to break down some of the brackets. We got a new friend of the podcast as well. If you're somebody who wants to jump around and just listen to the update on your bracket, feel free to check the description in the show notes to find the time that you can jump around and join for your specific portion of the bracket. There's going to be a lot of great baseball played this weekend. Really excited to get into it. So let's go ahead and bring on our first guest. Well, joining us to break down the AAA bracket, we are joined by Mark Von Ruden of the Minnoka Grays. Mark, welcome back to Fed Up.
Hey, thanks for having me. Real quick, thanks for having me back on. Thanks for the board for getting the schedule figured out. That was my first time playing it with Konya, and it was awesome. So thanks to all those guys for having us out there.
I will say that there was a lot of extra effort this year to really pull that off, and to have two really gracious hosts in Waconia and Milltown step up and do their thing was really a lifesaver, a tournament saver. I think it preserved the competitive balance that we want to see from the AAA. So yeah, I'm glad you called that out and were able to recognize some individual efforts and some team efforts for just keeping this bracket as competitive as it should be.
Yeah, and I have to say that field is great. They put on a great concession stand. The field was in great condition, and overall, it was great to be by everyone. I think we missed the Friday night where we're all together, but it worked out pretty well.
Speaking of the AAA being competitive, 7 of the 8 games played over the weekend were decided by 3 runs or less in this bracket. The one exception being the Mammoth scoring the 2-point conversion there against Waconia, winning 8-0. But just some really good baseball, really competitive baseball, some really tight games. What did you see from a spectator standpoint?
The same as usual, right? The pitching is king and defense wins, man. We got very fortunate with some good pitching outings and defense. And the teams that went on were the ones that pitched the best and played the best defense.
Speaking of that, I mean, you guys scored 3 runs all weekend, and here you are sitting once again a game away from the championship.
I mean, this is the recipe we kind of went with last year, right? Pitch well, don't make mistakes on defense, and then score where you can. You know that every team you play is going to have good pitching, and you can just hope to minimize what they can do on offense. And it's worked so far. I mean, there's a lot left to go, so I'm pretty sure 1 and 2 runs isn't going to cut it against Lakeville or Newmarket or Mammoth again when we see them. But so far, so good.
Go ahead and just recap a few of the games together that happened over the weekend. Obviously, the action starting with that, we'll call it tumultuous relationship with Lakeville and Newmarket. A really well-played game. The Lobos coming on top 7-4 in this one. Newmarket's still alive, though. They will play the Mammoth this weekend in an attempt to try and claw their way back into the title game again. But were you able to attend that game?
Yeah, I was out there. And, 7-4 is probably even more of a gap than I thought there should be. Newmarket put a lot of good, solid bats on balls that just didn't fall. And then the two runs or more came off of a throwing error home which kind of led to the big ending for Lakeville. So, I mean, that game should have very well been a 3-2 or 4-3 the other way type of game. It was very, very highly
Well, then went on to take on the Pipers in their second round game. But the Pipers had to get past the Hastings Hurricanes first, and everybody's talking about one play that happened in this game. Everybody's talking about the same play that came out of this game. I know you were there. For those that weren't, maybe just recap what you saw.
So we saw a runner get on first with I believe it was a bunt single, and then they called timeout and kind of gathered. Joe came over. Joe's the umpire, and they had a little conference with Joe, and it was lasting a while. And then the Rosemount manager came over, and he was kind of shooed away. So we're all wondering what's going on. And so game resumes. Runner on first just hightails it out to right field, all the way out to right field, and it's just chilling by the right fielder. Cliff was pitching for Rosemount and just steps off the mound and just stands there. I had no idea what was going on. I'd never seen this before. Apparently, it's a social media thing. But Cliff knew what was going on. And then it was just kind of a stalemate for a while. But it was definitely something I hadn't ever seen before.
The play, it has a name. They call it the skunk in the outfield. It's got some precedent, in terms of being tried mostly, I would say, at like the high school level. It's worked. It's designed really to get the pitcher to panic. Maybe the wrong guy on the mound to do it against. Cliff Christopherson, obviously very poised, veteran pitcher. Consumed some social media apparently too, but he knew exactly how to really thwart this. I know that Nick Tuckner and some of the guys on the Hurricanes are taking a little bit of heat on it, but I'm in the camp that it's fun to see. I think it could have worked out for them, and I think we'd be talking about it and applauding their ingenuity had it worked out. But obviously, it didn't for them. The game didn't go their way. I know that there was potentially some internal discussions as well in the Hastings dugout about the reaction, and then they went on and took on Newmarket in the loser bracket shortly after, later that night, and that game didn't go their way either. A crushing end to an otherwise really magnificent season for the Hastings Hurricanes.
Yeah, I will say this was my first time seeing them, and I had limited opportunities because they only had one inning or two innings. But those guys can play baseball, man. The pitcher, Pfeffer, was very good, and he had just pitched the night before. They put bats on balls. They hit some pretty well. So those guys can play, man.
I would expect them to be right back in the AAA bracket next year. Really an impressive team. Sad to see the way their season ended, but tip of the cap and just the year that they had.
If it had worked, everyone would be talking about it entirely different.
In hindsight is 2020. Absolutely. So let's look at the games this weekend. AAA action resuming on Friday night. And that's because this bracket, just the way that it shook out, is really lagging kind of a round behind. What that means for the teams in we'll call it the one-loss bracket, they have to come back and win 5 games this weekend in order to claim the AAA title. What kind of an impact do you think that has on the 4 teams that are slugging it out in the one-loss bracket?
I mean, I can tell you that I didn't want to be down there. Like that's a big ask for teams that can all hit and can all play. Most teams, the good ones, have 1, 2, maybe 3 stud pitchers. I know Newmarket has 3 really good pitchers, but you're talking about 5 games over 3 days. That's That's tough on any staff, man.
When you look at a team like the Mammoth, with Matt Grill notoriously being, the proverbial rubber arm and having the ability to throw multiple games in a day, multiple games in a weekend, it's tough to
And
see
Kenny
or
Wrangler too.
think that they can ride him for 5 games.
Well, Kenny Wrangler too. He's another guy who can throw 18 innings back to back. And he pitched against us early this year when they beat us. Like he's looked really, really good this year.
A wily veteran who obviously knows how to get outs, and yeah, they will definitely have to rely on him if they want to come fighting back. Maybe we see somebody like a Tom Corcoran get into the action. I know he's got different, he's got some success on the mound in the past, but gonna have to expand the staff beyond Grill this weekend to do what the Mammoth are trying to do.
Oh, for sure. And Stark I saw Stark on Sunday, so he could throw. The Mammoth find ways to win. They're an excellent team, and they play amazing defense. If you play amazing defense, pitching is less important. It's still really important, but you can get by with just guys who throw strikes if you guys that make the plays that they're supposed to
The
make.
game in this bracket just feels like an absolute heavyweight fight. The Mammoth taking on Newmarket Friday night. We've got Rosemount taking on the Minnetonka Saints Friday night. You guys had a pretty tough game with them in the first round. Well, what are your thoughts on the Saints?
They're really good. I think people might have a hard time like thinking of this team separate from the Saints team that lost a bunch of games 5 years ago, 4 years ago. These guys were really, really good. And honestly, our game was 1-0. It could have easily swung the other way. I came in the fifth, and it was 0-0. I gave 2 leadoff singles to their leadoff guy, and then Klepp, and was lucky enough to get a soft line drive that turned into a double play because Matt Johnson made an amazing play on it. If that gets over his head, that's 1 run, guys on first and third, 0 outs, and it's an entirely different game. So Matt saved that one for us, and then after that I was able to cruise a little bit. But before that, man, we were 2 inches away from losing that game.
So often in games like this, there is that one defining defensive play. If you make it, you win. If you don't, you lose. Certainly sounds like that was the case with this one.
I was real nervous.
Well, congrats on that win. Maybe saved the biggest heavyweight fight for our last question here, but 17-0-1 now with the 2 playoff victories, 19-0-1. Lakeville trying to complete a historic season. We'll be taking on the defending champions, the Minnoka Grays. I think everybody in the league, regardless of whatever bracket you're in, will be paying attention to this one. It is the first game on field number 1 at Alley Magnet on Saturday. What do you expect out of that one?
I expect it to be like a no hold bars, like just slugfest. Those guys are always good. We've had amazing games against them for years now. And I feel like this one's going to be no different. I know they added a few key guys over last season, and they want to win this thing, man. So they're going to bring everything they have. And we are too. I mean, we hate losing. So so we're going to give it everything we got. I don't know any other way to do it.
The importance of that game, the winner obviously earns a spot in the championship game. The loser has to then win 3 and double dip the team that just beat them. So I would expect aces to be on the table for both teams. Probably means Erdal for the Lobos. You guys, I think you have a little bit of difficulty discerning who happens to be the ace, whether it be Nelson or Lovis. Do you have somebody
Good
that you
problem.
feel matches up maybe particularly a little bit better than somebody else?
I'm not going to say that. I trust both Bub and Jack to go either way. And the fact is, if we went Jack, Bub, Alex, I'm fine. Those guys all throw, and we play defense, and it'll be fine. I can tell you, I don't think I'm starting.
Well, and in my heart, in my program MVR, you are the ace of that team. But in all seriousness, man, kudos to you on a really great year on the hill. You've been
Thank you.
asked to shoulder a little bit more of the load in terms of innings pitched, and you have definitely answered the call.
Like I said, it's easy to pitch when you have good defense, man. Those guys help me out so much. They have for years now.
Tori and the Lobos, I tried my best to maybe get MVR to tip their hand on who you might see on Saturday, but alas, to no avail. However it plays out, we'll all be watching. Good luck to you and the Grays in your pursuit of a repeat. Thanks again for coming on. Always a treat to have you.
Real quick too, good job for you guys rebounding from your first bound loss and then winning 2 in a row against Brower and then South Metro. Those are some incredible teams. I got a chance to say hi to Tony over there before your game, and best of luck to you guys. Keep it going.
Appreciate that. We've definitely got our work cut out for us too, coming back through the one-loss bracket. But yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to run into you out there at Alley Magnet.
Oh, I'll be there probably all day.
I love it. Me too. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you.
Yeah, thanks.
If you recall, all the way back from earlier in the year in our preview episode, Lakeville was my preseason pick to win the AAA. I'm sticking with that. I think that they just really feel like this is a special year for them, and it's going to be really difficult to push them off of that path. Obviously, a team like the Grays, you're used to just automatically writing a W next to their name, regardless of whoever they're playing against. Ultimately, the bracket designers, I think, gave the other 4 teams in the AAA too much to really be able to handle to get back and have a shot at winning the championship. Winning 5 games in 3 days is really difficult, especially when you're playing against some top-notch talent as is left in the AAA. So while I love teams like the Mammoth and their offense and what they can do, with guys like Grill and Wangler on the mound, I just think that hill is too steep to climb. Minnetonka Saints having a wonderful year. Obviously, that hot stretch to end the season and snipe that division away from Tonka Bay. They're going to have the benefit, as is everybody else, of resetting the deck for the weekend and having everybody available. There just aren't many teams who have the staff to be able to throw well against this type of talent for that many games in that short a stretch. So I think our champion is going to be either the Lobos or the Grays. Obviously, whoever wins this game Saturday morning is going to just be in an absolute dominant spot. Should be a great game. So make sure you're showing up on Saturday to watch that baseball and support the rest of the Federal League. Breaking down our double A bracket. We've got another familiar face to the podcast. He's quite the character. I always love when I have a chance to catch up with this member of the South Metro Saints. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Well, with us now to break down the double A bracket, you know him from the South Metro Saints. You know him from episode 8. It's Mr. Kris Minor. Welcome back to Fed Up.
I love being on here, like I said, and I'm happy to lend my 2 cents, but you got a lot of nerve reaching out to me to talk about this shit when you just knocked us out of the playoffs, man. The hell? Whack.
Well, it was a well-played game, and we'll get your thoughts on it in a minute. But let's break down the weekend that was over the double-A bracket. I would say this bracket, more than most, featured a handful of upsets, including the 8 over the 1, and that's where we'll start. We saw the River Falls Groupers upset the Tonka Bay Lakers 3-2 on the arm of Derek Marks. Any thoughts on just the pitching that you've seen out of the double A bracket?
Well, we were I think the consensus around the league too is when you look at the AA bracket, I mean, aside from maybe, I mean, I bet you could make an argument for the top six to make AAA any given year, depending on circumstances, the weather, people getting pregnant, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a when you don't make AAA and you're in AA, top seed in AA or whatever. It's not a picnic, man. It's like every one of these teams, it seems, has at least one guy that brings it or is very consistent and just dots, wherever he wants. So, I mean, marks, I mean, everyone knows in this league. I think the talent and the pitching in AA, arguably, it's as inconvenient as a weekend for you in AA as I could argue as AAA.
One of the ideas I've seen floated for potential changes in next year is rather than kind of have the extra teams in the B bracket be the bigger bracket, potentially
Mm,
expanding the AAA and including more teams competing for that top prize. What are your thoughts on that?
love it. That was a topic of discussion um, this weekend with us, just because we were close, and I'm not saying we were warranted to be there at all. Don't get me wrong. It kind of evened out for us, whatever. But there's one at large bid, with all the talent. I think if you took it, when this was kind of a Cody Candler idea, I got to give you that. Otherwise, I'm not going to hear the end of it. Brought up the top six and then a play-in bottom four, 6 through 10. Then you see everyone's got to throw their ace, and then you see all that pitching on display and all that stuff. Perhaps that's an avenue, but I think opening it up to a few more teams and then being able to coordinate. I know this year was an anomaly, but being able to coordinate it where all the teams are in the same kind of location and being able to watch this stuff and just have a couple beers, eat whatever, and do it. I mean, that's going to make this whole thing just that much more awesome. So, and get the word out there about how good this really is.
Couldn't agree more with you. You were one of the teams that uh, played down we'll call it an alternate site. We had the host, Milltown Outlaws, step up
Mhm.
to be a host site down in Dundas.
Mhm.
Uh, Really, them stepping forward really preserve the competitiveness and the beauty of some of the venues of where we were able to play some of these big time games. Uh, Talk about your experience playing down in Dundas.
I mean, anyone who plays ball in this state, even a newbie like me, has heard of Dundas, had never had a chance to play there, had seen all the crazy photos earlier in the year, right? And, to be honest, Alley Magnet's like 5 minutes from my house. It's pretty awesome playing there for me personally. So when I heard we were being moved, I'm like, your natural reaction is like, whatever. But when you hear it's Dundas, I'm like, okay, yeah, of course. And I feel like that got us a little more juice. It would have sucked if they'd have said, hey, we got moved from Delano, so these guys are moving to Alley, and you guys are going to Rich Valley. That's going to be awesome. Get pumped for that. Walk through that youth baseball tournament that's going on 5 miles to your dugout. So, no, it was awesome. It was great. And, they really do it right up down there. I mean, they had really no skin in the game for us to be there. They had walk-ups for everybody. They had the whole deal, and I think that is really cool for an outfit like that. But I think that speaks. You could probably echo that about every small town, that takes care of their town team like that in their field like that. So it's a really awesome experience.
You got to wonder how much playing host affected Jesh and Bauer's boys. On the wrong end of a couple of games, it was a short tournament
Hmm.
for the Outlaws. They run into Josh Lowen and a strong pitching performance. They lose to the Burnsville Bulldogs 2-1 in their first game and then followed up with a 5-1 loss to the Metro Loons. Uh, have to think maybe the extra work involved there maybe deterred from some of their focus and their ability to compete, but a couple of tough opponents they ran into as well.
Sure, they couldn't have been cooler guys. Never met them, never seen these guys, never played against them. Couldn't have been cooler guys, welcoming. So kudos to them. No, awesome job hosting. super awesome dudes, take care of this stuff. We didn't have to lift a finger. It was just awesome, and it was just a cool experience. A lot of the kids were there, so it's just one of those cool Saturdays that you can't bitch about ever. You can't complain about that.
Your team victorious in that first game at Dundas over the Loons, but
Mhm.
you were dropped down into the one-loss bracket after running into Josh Lowen's
I
second
was gonna,
game of the weekend. Just an unbelievable performance from Josh Lowen. Talk a little bit about some of the struggles that your team
oh man,
encountered facing him.
sure. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, we faced them last year. It was early on. Last year was our first year in the league, so we didn't really know much about them. And I think Josh was on the playoff preview.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
Yep, last
yeah,
week.
okay. Yeah. So I remember him saying kind of alluding to the fact that they might be a little bit old or whatever, whatever. And then if you've never seen a team before and you look across and they have more gray hair guys than you by like three, right? Then you're like, okay. But then you watch them play, holy God, they pitch, they play defense, and they just make timely hits, they take the bases, they do everything right. Like we had a lot of hard hit balls. I'm not saying we torch them, but we had some hard hit balls. They made every play, and they ran the bases. And so they're just kind of unassuming guys. And then you go get out and play against them, you're like, geez, these guys are dogs. So I think as they progress, I mean, I believe they have two losses to play with yet, right? They're in the winners bracket, and Rockford, who, I mean, anyone knows who pays attention, is a perennial AAA potential team, depending on who's there, right? And it's who's hurt or whatever. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a pleasant experience playing against those guys in 3 years. So that's what I have to say about that. So those are two of the squads that are in pretty good shape right now, I would think.
I know Burnsville's end of the season, the way they ended on that long skid,
Hmm.
definitely not a hallmark or a calling card for the Bulldogs. I am way more surprised about how they ended the year than I am with the fact that they are sitting a game away from the championship in the Double A.
Hmm.
But yeah, as you mentioned, they are taking on a Rockford Rail Splitters team that is really good offensively. They mustered just 3 runs in their opener against the Apple Valley A's. But when you get pigeonholed as a hitting team, they have a guy who comes out and they almost hit the A's. We had one hit that broke that up in the 7th, and it was really in a turn of events, their pitching that propelled them into the second round.
I think that'll be a really cool game to watch because they're kind of contrasts in styles in a way, in a little bit, and it'll just be an interesting dynamic. And
Lots of veterans on both those rosters. It will certainly be a well played game. That will
Mhm.
kick off the weekend. That's the 11 o'clock game on Saturday on Alley Magnet 2. Flipping down to the one loss bracket. We've got the Apple Valley A's taking on the Metro Loons. You mentioned those A's did bookend your season. You opened up with against them, and unfortunately, you ended with them. Talk a little bit about your reaction to that game.
When I get pigeonholed into a situation like this in front of people, I take shelter.
Oh boy.
This
Um,
is the this is the Saints parking lot report luchador mask that we never debuted this year. No, we didn't have. We were saving this for something just really bonkers, out of this world nuts, right? Like making AAA or something. And we didn't get to use it, so I'm using it in the depressing exit interview from the 2024 Federal League. Thanks, Josh.
well, I,
No.
I noticed you're also doing this interview from outside. YouTube listeners, the luchador mask and the neighbors' Christmas lights in the background from Chris Miner. Never
Those
know
are
what's going to
their
happen when we have you on. I love it.
those are their everyday lights. They change them. It's Chuck and Gale. They change them. They change colors every day. and they're Vikings fans, but you know what they did? They're so Minnesota nice. When the Packers played the Niners in the NFC Divisional last year, they put green and gold on their goddamn lights, man. That's the kind of neighborhood love we have in this state, man. I love it. And it's a reflection. It trickles down into the Federal League community.
Well,
Anyways,
Chuck
what were
and
we
Gail,
talking about?
if you're Chuck and Gail, Chuck and Gail, if you are listening, maybe turn those lights green and gold again this weekend in support of the Apple Valley A's.
Look at you, just on your toes. Holy smoke. Yeah, man. No. Um, hold on. I really, just so you guys know, I do try when it comes to this kind of stuff. So this requires me looking at stuff. Oh, yes. The Metro Loons. They eliminated us last year on a weekday. Perfectly fine weekday, by the way. They got, man, we played them in the opening round this year. It looked largely the same, but I have to say, what's his name? Is Bujold or Bujold or Bujold?
Yeah, Bougie.
Bougie. Can I swear on this? He's fucking.
If you
He's
need to.
fucking. He's fucking good. Yeah, he's a monster. Like he pitched. I think he catches, and he pisses on everything. But no, he's a monster for them. And they have guys that they have a lot of guys that drive in runs. They hit gaps. They're not a dink and dump you to death, right? They're gonna hit gaps and score 1-2 at a time, 3 at a time, maybe, you know. So I like I mean their bats, let's say, and you know, depending on who they have on the bump versus what I would consider your guys' forte being the pit. You got two guys that can go complete games. You got the defense, probably one of the best defenses in the Federal League. You got depth, you got speed. So it is kind of the chocolate or vanilla kind of thing, you know? So the swirl is going to be interesting. I just made that up. For anybody who pays attention to this, when you guys lose Tim Scott, is okay, you know, it's a wash kind of year, whatever. And then you guys didn't even get off to a particularly fast start. So you just kind of, and the turnaround, I think is awesome. I feel like you guys do that almost every year since I've known you. But so I think that's going to be a really fun matchup.
Really looking forward to seeing just how it does in this bracket and who emerges holding the Dan Tupper trophy at the end of the tournament.
It's awesome. Can't beat it.
Inspiring words for sure from the one, the only, Mr. Kris Minor. I can't thank you enough for joining and breaking down the AA bracket. Always a treat to have you on and to chat baseball with you. Thanks again for
You
being
bet.
on.
Back to you, Marnie.
You know, being a baseball player, I'd like to say I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious, but not going to provide a ton of extra breakdown on this bracket, just for the fact that I've got a horse in the race and would love to see our team do well. So no additional prognosticating on this one. Obviously, the 4 teams that are left are all really good in this bracket. Rockford, well-rounded team. Burnsville, getting Nate Larson back this weekend is going to make them really difficult to beat. The Metro Loons are as good a hitting team as there is in this league, and they've got a couple of great arms to go with it. Apple Valley, can't say enough about them. I know every time they take the field, they feel like they can win. So should be another great bracket to pay attention to and take in. Looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. Our next guest, one more familiar face. You're going to recognize him from our breakdown last week. ESPN has called to try and secure his talents, but we've got him back, and we're going to bring him on now. Well, to break down our A bracket and the remaining games, I'm going to do my best Mark Worms impression and give the ball to number 17 once again, Mr. Dan Pluff, welcome back to Fed Up.
Thanks again for having me, Josh.
It couldn't have been a much better weekend for the St. Michael Angels. You guys took care of business as you were hoping to. We probably gave you the most difficult job of anybody in breaking down a bracket because of how close we knew some of these games would be, how close some of the competition would be. 4 of the 10 games over the weekend were indeed one-run games. Pitching was certainly a big story of the bracket. No more notable game than the game that you threw a 1-0 shutout. Tell us a little bit about your team's performance and what you guys could rely on over the weekend to advance to where you're at now.
Yeah, I think I'll go one game in front of that. So we gave the ball to Sean on Saturday against St. Croix Valley and jumped out to a 2-0 deficit, and the team really battled back and found a way to win that game. So kudos to them for brawling through it. I wasn't able to make it on Saturday, but really, again, for everything I heard, good, gritty team effort. So set us up for Sunday and against the Cannons, who I had them as the pick to win the A bracket. So I knew it was going to be a good game, and I nailed it. I said they were not historically really known for their pitching, but they have 2 great arms, and we definitely saw really, really good pitching on the other side. We got, as you said, 1 run. We threatened a couple of times, but he found a way to get a couple of big strikeouts and keep us off the board until I think it was about the 5th inning. So it definitely, like I said, was a really good matchup. But they swung it well. I think the 0 is not indicative of some of their at bats. They barreled a few up right at guys. So any good pitcher knows that is your best friend. So good D behind us. It's good to have the playoff roster. I think we had like 17, 18 guys there. So we were able to rotate in quite a few guys, keep some fresh legs and play some good D, and came out on the good side of that one.
Sometimes a roster that size in the playoffs can provide a little bit extra energy, a little bit of an extra spark, and be just what you need to kind of push you over the hump. Nothing says playoff baseball more than a 1-0 victory. So congrats to you and the Angels for a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Your opponent this weekend, your first opponent this weekend will be the Elko Chuggers. They are there by way of victories over the Lonsdale Jokers 4-3 in the first round and the TC Snappers 9-4 in the second round. What do you know about Elko? What do you expect them to bring in terms of a punch to you at Big Willow at 1:45 on Saturday?
Yeah, and I mentioned this last week when we spoke. They definitely a really good offensive club. So we know they're going to score some runs, as this weekend was certainly indicative of. And they got by a really good Lonsdale team. So I had them as on upset alert in that first round, and they proved me wrong. So they might have a bone to pick with me. Hopefully not too bad, but they're a good swinging team. I know that we are the 1 seed, they're the 3, but their pedigree historically is a little bit stronger than ours. So they probably have something to prove that they don't belong in the A bracket, and they're going to definitely give us a great fight. So I expect a really good game. I think, our defense is probably our stronger suit versus our offense. So kind of strength on strength. It'll be fun to see which comes out on top on Saturday.
2 teams the Chuggers beat, the Snappers and the Jokers, are both still in this tournament. They are scrapping it out in the 1-loss bracket. What do you expect out of that game that's just following yours at Big Willow?
Yeah, more good baseball. Like I said, Lonsdale, I've not seen them play, but definitely on paper is a strong squad. And I did, as I mentioned last week, have a chance to pitch against the Snappers this year. Really, really good team. So I think I speak for Elko and my team when I say we don't want to lose. You drop down into that. Whoever wins that game is not going to go quietly into the night. And obviously, you lose that first one for us on Saturday. That means you got to win that game and then 2 more coming back up. So it goes from winning 1 to winning 3 to take home the hardware. So I think both teams on our side are going to be, really airing it out from an arm standpoint. Certainly those on the losers side will be doing the same thing. So, hopefully we can catch, if we do drop down, maybe not a stud arm and power our way back into Sunday, but fingers crossed we can stay up on the good side of that one.
Certainly a much easier path if you do get it done in your first game Saturday. I asked you last week about the home field advantage and how much that might play into things. Teams playing a game in their home park were actually 0-4 over the weekend. So it doesn't seem to be much of an advantage. The Snappers will be the road team in this game as well against Lonsdale, but that game taking place at Big Willow. Does it make any difference this weekend, or do you expect more? Just the better team will come out on top.
Boy, last week I said I don't think it matters much. It's baseball is baseball. It's 90 feet between the bases, 60 feet and 6 inches to home. But the other thing I believe in is reversion to the mean. So now that you said they're 0-4, now that makes me really nervous about this weekend. So thanks for getting inside my head, Josh. Appreciate that.
Whatever we can do. I mean, certainly teams need help scratching together some runs against you and your teammates. Really stout defense, great pitching.
Well, I'm a baseball player, so we're all superstitious. So last week I picked against us, so I'm picking against us again. I'm not deviating from that at all. So go Chuggers. I got them to win it all at this point.
We're recording this on Wednesday night, couple of days removed from your last start. How's the arm feeling?
There's two answers. One is the public answer of I feel great, can't wait to go this weekend. But between friends, yeah, it's not so good. 40's tough right now. So I actually woke up early this morning. I must have slept on it wrong and walking around like an old man all day. So hopefully I can get some ibuprofen in me and be ready to go this weekend.
There you go. That's the Federal League cocktail there.
Right.
Maybe a Busch Light and some ibuprofens for sure. My wife and I actually switched sides of the beds during baseball season, so I had to sleep on my right shoulder. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I applaud your dedication. I can't sleep on the other side, so I'm just going to have to go with half sleep, I guess, at this point.
Championship game this weekend taking place at Alley Magnet, also the site of your first round matchup. Weather's supposed to be beautiful in the 70s and sunny. Really looking forward to however this bracket plays out. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. The champion of this bracket, whoever it might be, is definitely going to have to earn it. We talked a lot last week about just the playoff pedigree that these teams remaining have in this bracket. The Chuggers have won the AAA in the past. We talked at length about Jeff Wilson's group and the Snappers just always being a force in August. The Jokers were last year's runner-up in the AA. I know that they didn't like how that end of the season played out, so I know they're going to be hungry. Really keeping an eye on the games going forward. Said you believe in the regression to the mean. The teams remaining have really survived on some great pitching. Do you expect this weekend's matchups to be higher scoring, or do you expect more of the same in terms of pitching and defense prevailing?
I'm going to go ahead and say I think you see some more runs scored this weekend. I think as the arms get a little tired, maybe a little deeper into the bullpens and into the pitching staffs, I think the run totals will go up. And, again, the teams remaining, they're good swinging teams. I think a lot of them are built around their offense. So I don't expect to see many 1-0 games this weekend between Big Willow and Alley Magnet.
Fantastic analysis, as always, from Mr. Dan Pluff. Really love having you on. I'm looking forward to watching this bracket as it plays out. Hopefully get a chance to see you this weekend and your team in action in the championship.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, and good luck to the A's as well.
Appreciate that. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
I just love following this bracket. In other brackets, I feel like there's maybe a team because of their roster, because of their spot in the bracket, that I would give an edge to or, lean towards, picking towards winning the thing at this point. But this bracket, I feel is still wide open. I feel like this could be the one spot where we see somebody double dip the winners bracket. Some really good teams still slugging it out in the one-loss bracket with the Snappers and Lonsdale. If I was pressed for a pick in this one, I feel like it could be Lonsdale that is holding the trophy at the end of the year. And if that were to happen, might serve as a little redemption for the way that they weren't able to get the AA done last year. But going to be an exciting finish in this bracket as well. Those games taking place out in Big Willow until the championship. So make sure if you're around to hop out and taking some baseball out at a beautiful park in Minnetonka. Well, our final guest is a new face to Fed Up. He's the manager of the Veseli Vulcans, a team that I feel has a chance to be one of the real good, feel-good stories of the year. Let's go ahead and bring him on. It is my honor now to be joined by Veseli Vulcans manager Joe McCluskey. Joe, welcome to Fed Up.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
You know, I just feel like there's some teams that don't get the same amount of press in terms of action on the website, this show included. I feel like Veseli might be one of them. You know, you guys fly a little bit under the radar, but it's part of the reason I wanted to have you on. You guys have a great story, but tell us a little bit about Veseli, how you guys started. You know, where'd you find your guys? What do you enjoy about the Federal League?
Oh, let's see. I think we started about 2013. Eric Steinoff was the original manager, and he pretty much just found guys in and around New Prague. Vesely is about 5 miles from New Prague, so that's pretty much how we kind of got started, and it was just word of mouth.
Great. And Eric, being one of those guys, really on the all-time hits list for the Fed, he's got 180 career hits in the Federal League, a ton of success, a long run over a relatively short period of time.
Oh yeah, he is a big guy, and he has a big bat, and he's just fun to watch. Love him to death. And you always know when he's having fun because he'll want to hit left-handed, which he'll do every now and again. And he hits bombs left-handed too.
You guys have recently struggled a little bit in terms of the win-loss record, but you had a little bit of an infusion this year, taking on some of the Webster guys. What has that meant to your team, and how did that connection kind of come about?
Well, yeah, we were pretty much struggling really early on, and we had to move a couple of games around, and Webster happened to be one of them early May. So I contacted their manager, didn't hear anything from him, tried to get a hold of him, and then a couple of their guys, Tom Carpenter, or Carp as we call him, and Tom Larson, were in contact with me, and they were pretty much telling me that they were going to fold. And I just asked them, hey, if you guys are going to fold, we would be more than happy to take, 5, 7 guys on. And they took me up on it about 2 weeks later because they were trying to make it work, and it just wasn't going to. After we got them, it was immediate. It was we were playing better, we were hitting better. Everything was just falling into place. It was great.
That's great news to hear. I mean, you never want to see a team fold, but when you're able to kind of capitalize on it and see a team kind of resurrect because of it, not only the guys stay in the league, but your resurgence has been notable and certainly paying off.
Absolutely. It's we do play in the toughest division. We play Lakeville, we play Lonsdale, Elko, Newmarket. I mean, those guys, they're really good teams. So generally, that's why we have a 2-16 record. But since we have gotten the new guys, it's been great. We've been competing against those guys and doing very well. And I see a lot of excitement up and down the lineup, and we're ready to go this weekend.
One of those guys that you got was Tony Rome. I know he is a fantastic pitcher. We actually ran into him while he was a Wildcat earlier this year. Great arm, great player. What has he meant to your team specifically?
He has been huge. I don't think there's a game he doesn't want to pitch in. He is a bulldog, and I want to be careful because I don't want to ruin his arm because he wants to pitch every game. And this weekend he pitched 10 innings, and he was just amazing to watch.
Sometimes you got to protect a player from themselves almost, right, when they really want to get after it.
Oh, absolutely, and he's an excellent hitter. So, I mean, there's other things that he can do to help the team out. And so, we did that this weekend too. We had Kyle Green pitch, and he pitched wonderfully for 4 innings. So we'll probably do that again this weekend.
One of the games that Tony threw well in was recently against the Eden Prairie Flyers, who happened to be your opponent in the winner's bracket this weekend. Tell me, how much do you guys think about that game? How much do you think it matters to them? How much will be on their mind as you go into the matchup this weekend?
I'm pretty sure they want payback because we 10-runned them, and we haven't 10-run anybody since I've been on the. And Tony Rome was outstanding. He gave up 2 little seeing eye singles, so I'm sure they're going to want payback. And they're a really good team. great bunch of guys to play against.
Let's talk about your path to get to where you are now. A couple of games at St. Bonnie, you guys came in as the 1 seed. You played the Bombers, you played the Rockets. What have you kind of noticed as themes to your keys to victory?
Solid pitching, but we have actually had solid defense. The Minneapolis team they're really good fastball hitters. They were impressive. So they were, we had a big lead and they came back and made it interesting. Now, when we played the RC Rockets, they had 2 outstanding pitchers. That was a battle. We were loading the bases a lot, getting a lot of guys on base, and had a few big hits to help us to victory. So that was really nice. And I used to play for the RC Rockets when I first started, which they were the Richfield Rockets. So that's kind of weird to play them, but it was a fun game.
Always fun to play your friends. Even more fun to beat your friends. I'm sure that was a game that stuck out for you personally. The Rockets still in it. Maybe let's visit the loser bracket, we'll call it, on the other side of things, and maybe you can help us break it down. So the Rockets are taking on the Senators, and the St. Paul JTs are taking on the Red West Legends. Both those games actually being played tonight. We are recording this on Wednesday night. Those games should be in action right now. What do you expect out of those games, and who do you expect to emerge victorious?
Well, out of the Red West St. Paul JTs, I like St. Paul JTs. Those guys can really hit. They've got really good pitching, got really good defense. I know it's been a down year for Red West, but it seems like they've been catching fire of late. So, but I do expect that the JTs will pull that one out.
They could be inspired a little bit by Jim Block and his final season. Obviously, they are the defending champions in this bracket. Very used to being the best of the lousiest, as they have self-proclaimed themselves. But I agree with you. I think that's a team that is definitely one to be reckoned with. They just believe that they are going to have success in this bracket. Red West has been playing much better. They got that excellent 1-0 victory over the Bombers that eliminated them and ended their season. But it just feels like JT's really has a swagger about them this time of the year in the beat.
I absolutely agree. They just they expect to win, and you can tell it in their body language. When something doesn't go right, they don't really care. They just try to the next inning get a few runners on and score those runs that they need. However, they can do it. Sacrifice bunts, seen that before. Squeezes, do whatever it takes.
The other game, the RC Rockets and the St. Paul Senators. What do you expect out of those two teams? What do you know about those two teams? Obviously, you just played the Rockets. You told us you're a former player there. You must know that team pretty well. What do you expect out of that game?
I expect the RC Rockets and the St. Paul Senators. It's always a battle. Ever since I've played those with Richfield, it's always been a battle between the two teams. So I expect actually Richfield to come out on top. Sorry, RC Rockets. It's a little weird for me. They're a little younger, they're quicker, their pitching is just outstanding. They've got great defense. Nothing to take away anything from St. Paul. They're a solid team as well. I was very impressed by the RC Rockets when we played them.
One of the players who got an exception out of the Rockets was Colin Warren. It's hard to talk about the Rockets without talking about Colin Warren. Was he there for the first weekend? Do you expect him to be there for the second?
From what I talked to JB, their bench coach, I don't think he's going to be playing this year. He broke his arm in the Hickory tournament last year, and it doesn't sound like he's coming back.
Definitely a devastating injury. I know I've had a few at-bats this year. I know he's got a young family as well, but definitely hope to see him back and playing. But not only that, hope to see him on the mound again. Just a fun player, fun attitude. Definitely want to see him back.
Absolutely. Hope him the best.
A lot of great storylines still exist for the B bracket, whether it's the newcomers, Eden Prairie Flyers, trying to reach the pinnacle of success in this bracket in their first season. The Veseli Vulcans, you guys combining with Webster. I think it's just been a really great story, and it's been really fun to see you guys playing well. Obviously, we mentioned Jim Block as well. Should be an excellent finish to this tournament. But if we had to hold your feet to the fire, did the Vulcans get it done?
That's a tough one. I don't want to be cocky, but I'm pretty confident. I think we get it done.
We certainly want to wish you the best of luck this weekend. Thank you for coming on, and we will definitely all be paying attention to how it plays out. Joe, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate the chance to talk with you.
So we recorded with Joe on Wednesday night. He didn't have the luxury of having all of the information available that I do now, recording on Thursday morning. Two great games in this bracket last night, taking place out at Alley Magnet. The St. Paul JTs were able to sneak by the Red West Legends, and in 12 innings, with the runner on second rule taking effect in the 10th, the RC Rockets were able to get it done against the St. Paul Senators. So the Rockets and JTs advanced. There are now 4 teams left competing for that title. I'd love to see the JTs and the Vulcans in the championship here. Either way, I think that would make it just a really great story in terms of who ends up walking away victorious from that one. Either Jim Block rocking it in his swan song, or the Veseli Vulcans, and on the strength of their pseudo merger with Webster, being able to rebound and find some late season success and rally around each other for a storybook ending. These games this weekend will be played out at St. Bonnie. So if that's in your neck of the woods, go ahead and sneak out to taking some well-played competitive baseball. Well, that is all the time we have for this edition of Fed Up. We've got just 3 days of competition remaining in the season, but never fear. Fed Up will bring you several more episodes remaining in our season. Next week, we'll be speaking with the champions and reviewing the action that was over the championship weekend. We're also going to take the time to grade my paper and see how we did with the preseason preview picks. In 2 weeks, we're going to do a little bit of a breakdown of the season and do a way too soon look ahead to the 2025 season. I think it'd be great to have just a ton of ideas on possible rule changes, ways to improve maybe the playoff format, the divisions, the schedules, whatever you guys feel would make the overall experience better. Send us a message, send us an email, send us a direct message on X, post it on X, tag us, but give us your ideas on how to make the Fed even better. And we'll make sure to give each of those ideas some time. But for now, big weekend ahead. Good luck to all the teams that remain. Play well, stay healthy, and as always, thanks for listening.